Hey everyone, welcome to the Powered by Iron Health podcast, where we're here to create a community that raises the standard of health and wellness. I'm Joe Rendina. This is Alina Rendina. What's up,
Hey
Alina?
guys, what's up?
What's going on?
Just happy to be here today.
Today we have a very cool topic. We're going to be focused on being a newbie in the fitness world and really how to get into fitness. We're going to talk all aspects of it, from how to start, what to look for, how to stay consistent, how to be accountable, and deep dive on like what you should be looking at if you're like, hey, I need to get healthy, and these are some of the key metrics and things I want to focus on. So if you're a newbie in fitness, what are the key topics they should be looking at as far as how do I make this jump and start being healthier?
Well, I think before even considering what to look for is getting crystal clear on what it is that you want, like what your outcome is. There's so much information out there now, like a plethora of information. We have ChatGPT, we have Google, we have all these different things. We have TikTok and influencers and Instagram and Facebook, and everyone's kind of telling you what you should be doing. But if you strip away the what you should be doing and just focus really like, what do you want as an individual? How do you want to feel? How do you want to look? What does health look like to you? What does success look like to you? Then you can start to curate a plan for yourself, and then you can start to think about what it is that you want to look for. Because so often what I've seen when working with people is that they do what they think they should be doing versus what they actually want to be doing. Or let's say like, Jane's neighbor lost 50 pounds doing peptides or something. Then Jane thinks that she needs to do that too. But maybe Jane doesn't really need to lose 50 pounds. Maybe she just wants to move a little bit better, get off the floor a little bit easier for her grandkids, feel a little bit better in a bathing suit. Like, you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. So I think that that's actually the most important part, is getting really clear on what it is that you want, your overall goal.
So defining what health and fitness looks like to you.
As an individual.
What do you think the key topic things people see? Like, obviously weight loss is always big. And I like you mentioned some other stuff getting off the ground, but what are some other key topics that you see people that like, hey, I need to get healthy? What are some things on their list?
Well, what I love, especially in recent years, is women that come in and they're like, I want to get stronger. That's a huge one for women's health, I would say, and a lot of women that are perimenopausal and postmenopausal, because our bone density drastically decreases after the age of 35 and then as we get older and older. So I see a lot of women coming in and saying that they want to build strength. That's the biggest one, honestly. Weight loss is huge too. Maybe that rivals for the biggest one. You'll see things like improving balance, but also things like increasing core strength, improving the pelvic floor. That's also big. And this is where social media is great, which is a side tangent and note, like bringing awareness to these things that maybe people didn't have awareness with before. And then I think another one that I'll see, but not as much, which is really interesting, is people coming in with like specific markers for blood work or like blood pressure, reducing their blood pressure, improving markers on their blood work, like glucose or something like that. And I'm surprised I don't see more of that, because usually that's doctor recommended, fitness.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of stuff for people to intake. I think Alina mentioned some big things like understanding your goals and what your why behind it, right? Like, what is your why? Like, why do you want to start to get healthy now? Like, what's going to make the change, right? You would say that's the biggest component of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Once they start to dive into the why, what's the next phase for them? They've never worked out, or they're completely new to fitness. What are some of the next phases or things they should be looking at to say, I need to be working out here, or this is the team I want to align myself with?
Well, that's a huge thing, aligning yourself with the right program, because again, so many different programs out there. At the end of the day, a lot of things will work for people, and I think that that is something that people need to consider. Like, if you are making consistent health changes to your day-to-day, and that's changing your nutrition, changing your lifestyle habits, adding exercise in different ways. If you weren't doing anything before, just adding something's going to make a difference, or taking something out of your diet that is making a negative impact. So keeping that in mind, that usually what happens is all these programs promise the world and say, like, if you do this program, you're going to get XYZ. And a lot of programs are going to have a positive impact. It's just a matter of aligning yourself with the right one. So finding a place or a program that feels aligned with you, whether it's something that you need to make sure that it fits you have like a checkbox, let's say like a mental checkbox. What's important to you, right? And not just like what your goal is, but what's important. Is support important? Accountability? Making sure that a program is tailored to your needs? Is it more important for you to actually go to a physical place and show up that way? Or do you do well by having, just something that's more like of an outline that you can follow on your own? So making sure that you're finding a program that offers the things that you know are going to work for you. And if you're a beginner, chances are you might not know what's going to work for you, but you can look at your life as a whole and say, like, okay, when I've excelled in something, let's say it's a job or relationships, what has it been that has given me the ability to excel in that? What did I really like about it? Was it having people around me, like a community? Is it having metrics that I can see my performance changing and me doing better, and I can actually track my progress? So I would say what you want to look for is something that's aligned with you, which is what you said, like aligning with the right program, and something that you know you're going to enjoy, because something might have the things that you're aligned with, but let's say like, there's a cardio program, like Orange Theory, for example. There's metrics involved, there's community, there's, energy involved in those workouts, but maybe doing something that isn't cardio based is the right fit for you. So can you find another program that has those other elements that work well for you, but isn't cardio based? So making sure that it's something that you enjoy doing physically, that's lined up with your goals, so knowing your goals, and then also something that is aligned with who you are as a person and what you need to excel and exceed.
That's said very well. I would double down on that. Like as a beginner, if we're talking about beginners specifically, there's some things in my mind that you should be looking for. And I take it from the perspective of like me being a beginner in anything. It's like I need to go somewhere or to someone that's going to give me knowledge on things I don't know. Like if you're new into fitness and you really want to start a journey, you need to make sure you're going to a place that they know what they're doing and they're going to guide you appropriately. Like I would say, and again, this is my opinion, but I think someone new into fitness, accountability is huge. Like making sure you're aligned with a program or a coach that's going to hold you accountable and say like, this is the way, this is how you get to where you want to go, aligned with your goals. Because if you just say, I just want to get into fitness, and you join a regular gym and you just hit the machines, there is going to be no sort of progress. There's not going to be motivation. You're not going to have that aspect. So I think as a beginner, you want to make sure you're with a team that's going to really care about you. Like you need to be in a place that they really, really, truly care about you, care about your progress, care about your goals, care about you as an individual, because that alignment's going to then take you to the next level. Like, and it's a community. Like you create a community. It's not just, hey, I'm doing this alone. I'm going at it and figuring out what's happening. It's like you have a team around you, because fitness is a lifestyle change, right? So I think really having a team around you who's going to hold you accountable, make sure they discuss the program with you and why it's important, and then having peers around you too, I think is a massive part as far as being a beginner in fitness. Like I said before, if you go to a regular gym and you don't have people around you pushing you or giving you a high five when you do something well, it's the motivation factor can falter, and you might limit yourself and only be going to the gym for 2 months versus making it a lifestyle change, right? So to me, those are some key components when I think about a beginner. And knowledge too. If you go to a place that they just send you on your own, it's not going to be like you're missing a big component of knowledge. Like you need a coach. That's why we have coaches at Iron Health, because they coach you and they have the knowledge, and it's a transfer of knowledge to make sure that you're progressing and getting better. And we have sit downs and discussions about your goals. Like those things are so important to me. Would you say the same?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, especially for beginners, not just getting thrown into something. Everyone's different, so that's important to consider too. Some people are more like analytical, where they really need that to thrive. Some people don't need that as much, but I still think it is important, because if you want to make it a lifestyle change and you want to make it something consistent, figuring out what you like and what you don't like are just as important, right? So like if you're sitting down with somebody and you're able to review, and not even just sitting down, like in the day-to-day workouts, like you can decipher like, okay, I do like this or I don't, whether it's a movement or like a movement pattern, which we'll talk about a little bit too, programming and stuff like that. But an exercise, a movement pattern, or how something's structured, like having an idea of what things look like is really important for, I think, longevity, because then you can take that with you. It's repeatable. You can learn the foundations, and that's really big for foundations.
If you were to think about one of our clients at Iron Health that started with us as a beginner and they progressed to where they are now, what were some key things that they really excelled in that like made them change their lifestyle?
It's funny because, like, as you were saying something earlier, a client popped into my head right away. I haven't been training clients for the last few months because we just had our second baby, but a client that I instantly think of, her name's Deb Cronin, so shout out to Deb. She came to us probably almost 3 years ago now, and complete beginner, never worked out beforehand. She has a very physical job. She does window treatments, beautiful window treatments for people, custom. Everything was new to her, so it's really intimidating, extremely intimidating. What helped her to excel was we did one-on-ones first for about 2-3 months so she can get movements down. She had that one-on-one coaching where I was able to be like a little bit more hands-on, help her get into body positions a little bit better, assess where maybe if we focus a lot on core strength for her, where we could modify so that even when she went to the group sessions, then she knew, okay, this is what the session's doing, and we're always able to modify. That's what we pride ourselves in Iron Health, is like, especially with the small groups, you can be in a group of 2, 3, 4 people, 5 people, and everyone could be doing something different with the same foundational movement in mind, but something that suits their needs. And so for her, why she excelled so much is because she took that time in the beginning to do the one-on-ones, to learn the movement patterns, to make sure that she was doing them properly, so that when she was in a group setting, she was able to do it consistently and progress using the right form and consistency for her. Like, that was what helped her to be here for 3 years, and now her goal is more strength than just focusing on core, which is great. Like, you have the core strength and then you could focus on overall strength, because she's able to tie in her core strength to her other movements. So like, she gets hyped up with deadlifts. I know she recently had a PR. I want to say she maybe pulled 150 recently, which is huge. She's in her 70s, and like, she's lifting for the first time in her whole life for 3 years now. She's hitting like crazy PRs, so that's really cool.
That's awesome. That's a great story. So pulling some nuggets out of that, I think for a newbie, the first level is movement pattern. Then, right? Like, as a PT, a physical therapist, when I talk to people who want to be PT, I'm like, it's language. You have to learn the language. Fitness is the same thing. Like, if you don't know fitness, you're not into fitness, you have to learn the language of fitness, and that starts with your movement patterns, right? Like, making sure you understand how to move appropriately, safely, and guide it so you're not going to hurt yourself. Would you say the same?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with movements like a deadlift. Like, I think that's why CrossFit got such a bad rep. It's like a lot of the movements in CrossFit are seen in other workout programs. It's just, I think, like, and I'm not saying this for every CrossFit facility, but like, it's the environment, the intention, and all that stuff. When you kind of slow it down and teach the foundations first and really focus on that, then you're able to avoid injury more. And that's huge at Iron Health in general, because, PT and fitness going together, like, we don't want to we want to keep people healthy and moving and not take them out of exercise. That's a big focus of ours and a big goal. So,
That's a good prelim thing when you're getting into fitness. Make sure you understand that you need to learn how to move first, because fitness is not just machines. It's functional. Like, to your point before about someone trying to get off the ground, like, there's a lot of components of getting off the ground that's not going to be solved with just doing machines. So having like the movement basis and understanding movement, understanding your body is probably that base level of the pyramid. And if we stack this up and we think about it from a pyramid perspective, you have your movement first, movement patterns. What would be the next rung on that? And maybe let's see if we agree or disagree on that as a beginner.
for fitness,
Yeah.
are you talking strictly movement, or are you talking about nutrition and stuff too?
Well, I'm talking about everything. So if I'm a beginner into fitness, and we're saying, hey, understand your movement patterns first is the key, and align yourself with a coach that's getting you to move correctly, what's the next rung of that pyramid to make sure they're starting to create good habits, overall health and fitness?
I would say consistency is next.
Okay.
So, and that could be, I mean, like, staying consistent. Everyone's driven by something different. So some people might like that community environment where they're, around other people, like their peers, like you were saying. Some people might like one-on-ones. So having a set number of times that you're going per week, and then you have to like check in. So there's accountability there. But what would you say?
I would agree to that. Consistency. Like once you know, like I'm committed to this, you have to be consistent with it, right? And you said something good there, making sure you're going a certain number of times a week. I think for fitness, 3 times a week is essential as a beginner, because even when you think of, like, this is a side tangent, but PT, like when I think about teaching someone a new pattern of movement, the first level is your nervous system has to catch in and understand how to do it. Same thing with fitness. Like we have to get your nervous system up to par before we can build strength on it, and that comes with consistency. So having 2 to 3 times a week where you're these are my times for me to make sure this pattern and this habit is locked in is super important. So I totally agree with that. Let's go up the pyramid. We have movement. You're a beginner. You got to know how to move. Make sure you're aligned with a coach who's teaching you how to move. Then you start to develop consistency. What's that next level? I think strength overall, and that's a big, broad topic. But I think a lot of times in the gym, or especially, I will say, I think it's shifting now. But with females, traditionally, when they think of getting strong, they think like, I don't want to look like a bodybuilder. But I think that's a misconception, because you need to be strong for life. Like, how do you develop strength now? Like, we're getting our movement patterns, we're getting consistent. Now let's develop strength so that as we age, we are at a decreased risk of falls. We at a decreased risk of osteoporosis, osteopenia. Like, we're able to get off the ground with our kids. So strength development and strength knowledge, I think, is the next level. And a lot of that's like functional movements, the deadlift, squat, like getting your body to increase the resistance so you actually build strength for the long term, I think is key. I'm just thinking as far as like for someone listening, if they're like, all right, I need to get into fitness, what am I going to be my steps? That's kind of how I'm just thinking it through.
Yeah, I mean, strength is obviously, like I said, that's one of the biggest things that people will come in and say that they want to improve, especially women at a certain age, which is, I love to hear. To your point about bodybuilding and not looking bulky or not looking like a man or whatever, that very rarely happens. You have to you have to train a certain way to look that way and eat a certain way to look that way. So if you're hitting the gym 3 times a week and you're increasing your weight, you're not going to just look like a man in a year. Like, that's not how that works. You have to be training for hours a day consistently, a lot of, tension on the bar, a lot of load on the bar. And you have to like really be considering hypertrophy training and progressive overload for that. And you, again, have to eat like a lot of protein. And there's a lot of things that the normal average Jane, let's say, you don't just wake up looking like a man one day. You build muscle, you tighten up, you put on lean muscle, and especially when you're burning fat, so you have steady state cardio in there too. But aside from that, strength training is huge. Like you said, just reducing your risk of injury, reducing osteopenia and osteoporosis, like those are huge. And a lot of women, you don't want to be shell shocked. I have had so many women come in, they go to their doctor's like, okay, you're at that age, let's do a DEXA scan or something. And then they do a scan and they find out that their bone density puts them in a place of osteopenia or osteoporosis. And some people get told to be put on medication, or they're told to strength train. So it's like, why don't you just beat to the punch or whatever, and like just start training now, and then you don't have to worry about that as time goes on.
So we agree on that. Like, beginner's guide, we have those 3 rungs. I would think the icing on the cake, we could talk this through, and this is just me talking through conceptually, is really the nutrition component, nutrition supplementation. That's the next level. Like, that's the top of it. Like, if you are a beginner in fitness, you first need to learn good, solid movement patterns. You need to know how your body moves. You need your nervous system to catch in. Then you need that level of consistency. Like, now I'm making it a part of my life. You start to develop strength and saying, like, I'm doing this. What's next? I think nutrition. Now, you could do all these in conjunction, but I think nutrition and supplementation is going to be an aspect that's going to take you from A to B, where it's really like changing your physique, changing your body. If you want a weight loss, that's how you get into it.
I would also add in, so this is where I wouldn't necessarily agree, is non-exercise activity. So making sure that you're like, you can go to the gym 2-3 times a week, but if you have a sedentary lifestyle outside of the gym, it's going to take you longer to see results. And also, it's like you need to do more because you're doing less outside of the gym. So making sure that you're walking when you can, getting steps in, or like I mentioned, steady state cardio. It doesn't have to be a whole to do where you have to go to the gym to do this. It's more like, okay, what are you doing again, like outside of going to the gym? If you're sitting at a desk for work all day or staying in one location and you're not being like super physical. So non-exercise activity could be walking, steps, cycling, getting on a bike. Just again, it doesn't have to be like interval training, you're dripping in sweat, you're just moving, something outside of the gym. And then I would say nutrition.
Okay.
Because that's obviously important, and sleep is big too. Those are things that I would still consider too if you're a beginner getting into fitness. And I know that those things aren't, well, non-exercise activity is fitness, but related. Sleep and nutrition might not be, but if you're somebody who is looking to get into fitness as a beginner, those are components that are going to help your overall fitness journey.
I'll agree to that. I mean, I would say, if we revamp that pyramid, it would be movement on the bottom, consistency, strength, lifestyle. You're kind of talking about lifestyle, where it's like, now what am I doing when I'm not in the gym? How's my sleep? What are these components? Non-exercise activity. And then on top of that pyramid, nutrition. And like, you have a full pyramid there of like, hey, I'm a beginner into fitness. Where do I start? What do I want to excel at? And then how do I encompass that full pyramid? And I use a pyramid because it's like, it's encompassing. Like, I'm trying to just deliver knowledge of like, hey, this is what it looks like to be a beginner in fitness and develop a fitness lifestyle, right? Would you agree with that kind of pyramid?
Yeah, I would.
It's good. We're workshopping this, we're talking this through, but I think that's something, if you're a beginner and like you say like, where do I start? Like, those are key components for you to start to develop into a healthier life, where you're like, how do I really get into it? I think an important thing to hit upon, with that consistency, second part of the pyramid, that really is key. Like, and you need to align yourself with a team, like I was saying before, that's going to help you get there, because it's not being an individual, unless that's completely like you. Like, for me, I'm an individual and like I'm self-motivated and driven, and I'll get there, but not everyone's like that. Having people around you, around you that are doing the same thing you're doing is going to just push and move you forward. And like, you're like, hey, Jane's doing it, why can't I do it? And you become friends, it becomes a part of who you are. And that just really escalates things. And then aligning that with a coach who's going to hold you accountable, like, is key. That's why I think beginners need to invest in fitness and invest in a team that's really going to care about them, so they could take it through those kind of rungs of the pyramid and make it a lifestyle, rather than just, I'm going to try this for 3 months and be done. Like, just going to a regular gym and being like, I'm going to try all the machines in a circle and that's good enough. It's not really true.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a long-term thing.
And to your point too, something that I want to touch on a little bit more is the functional fitness component. Like, a machine approach, just like, listen, you put on muscle, again, hypertrophy training, you could totally see a growth in strength there. But for somebody that's a beginner, I think foundationally, knowing what functional fitness is and doing that is extremely huge, because you need to know the right movement patterns so that you can actually, if you do want to just use machines thereafter, cool. But like, you really need to know movement patterns that transition into your everyday life, because we're always moving. That's how we're built as humans. So things like you said like deadlift and squat, lunging, even rotating properly, like a deadlift is a hinge, right? People, how many times have you probably seen people as a PT that throw out their back putting shoes on?
Oh yeah.
Because they just have a weak core or they don't know how to like bend over properly. And that's a deadlift, right? And you can't really mimic that on a machine. I've never seen a machine that you can mimic that on.
No.
So, I mean, those are things that you want to consider. Yeah, I mean, if you're thinking like check boxes and pyramid base, like, that's huge. How you laid it out: movement, consistency, strength, lifestyle, and nutrition. Those are big. And, Iron Health, we do all of that. So
Yeah, I would say if anyone is looking to start into fitness, what would you say they should do? Like, if they want to work with us or somebody, like, what are certain questions they should ask or things they should really look at when they're aligning themselves with the right team?
again, knowing what they want and then asking them how that's going to help them get there. So like if they're coming in and they're like, yeah, I want to work on my core strength, or I want to, again, I have a woman coming in and she's like, I went to my doctor. This is actually a legit conversation I have all the time. I went to my doctor. They told me I have osteopenia and I need to build strength. How are you going to help me do that? So how are you going to help me achieve my goal? Whatever the goal is, how are you going to help me? And if someone doesn't have a clear answer for you, or it seems like they're kind of just like blowing smoke up your, you know what, then they're probably not a good fit.
Yeah. So those are all key components, and I think a big part as a beginner, it's to your point before, intimidating, like, right? Like, but it doesn't have to be. Like, there's communities out there. If you're interested in something like us at Iron Health, we have a community and we thrive on people who are beginners and who want to get into health and fitness. Like, this is what we do. So align yourself with someone like that. And if you are a beginner and you're listening to this, reach out to us. We want to help you to excel and change your life.
What would you say a good question is for them?
Goals is important, but then also like what is the baked in level of accountability? And that's because, that's how I operate. But I think accountability is a huge thing. Like if you don't have a coach that's going to actually watch you, understand you, and help you pursue to get you to your goal, you're just doing movements for the sake of doing movements. So say, hey, how does your accountability structure work? Because that's so important, right? Get a community. All right, guys, if you enjoy that, let us know. If you're a beginner, please just shoot us a message. We would love to help you out. Don't be intimidated. Take action now. The fortune favors the bold with that.
Thanks, guys.